Hi, I'm Greg Hodson, author of the new book, Content That Delivers. On this episode, we're going to talk about pre-production and the Scout. So let's start the clock, or the sand, I should say, and let's get through it. Okay, a lot of information in the book, but I like to just highlight things in these episodes so that you get an idea of what you can find in here, and then go to my website, hodsondirect.com, purchase a book for $11. I'll pay for shipping if you live in the States, and everybody's happy, okay? And this will help you tell great stories through digital content. Let's go to pre-production. Timelines, schedules, client feedback, and deadlines. This is very, very important. In pre-production, you have to have realistic timelines. You better put them in writing, and you better figure it out. How much time do I have to get certain things done? How to hire a crew? When do I have to have the Scout done? When am I going to shoot? When am I going to edit? When am I going to have it reviewed? When am I going to fix it? When am I going to reshoot? When am I going to master and deliver? Those timelines need to be done in pre-production. Let me tell you something. The most successful content producers in the big space and the small space and all the way in between are those that spend time on pre-production, okay? Pre-production. Figure it all out before you go. If you go by the seat of the pants, chances are your content is not going to work. It's going to be inferior, and you probably won't work for a client or an ad agency again because you didn't plan and you didn't perform and you wasted an awful lot of money. So I'm giving you ways to save money and please your client. That's what this is all about. Pre-production, underline it, pre-production, timelines, make sure you have that right. Schedules that are fixed, schedules that are flexible. Every person that touches your project during production has their own life, has their own world, okay? You need to get them to commit to your timeline and your schedule. You don't book a camera person and then say, we're going to shoot Saturday. And he says, I'm going to be on a cruise. And now you're running around town looking for another photographer, another camera person to shoot your content. Make sure in pre-production, you lock everybody up, you let everybody know your timeline, and you know everybody's schedule, etc., okay? Leave time in your schedule and in pre-production, right in there, client feedback. A lot of clients don't know what they're getting. They have an idea. That's why they hired you to create a story that activates a response. Whatever their definition of success is, that's what you have to achieve. So you need to get client feedback. Don't just start the project, shake hands, and then come back a month later, hand them a mastered copy, and then they look at you and say, what is this? Let me tell you, in your timelines, make sure your client feeds back every step of the way. Your draft script, your locations, your final script, your talent. Everything along the way, the talent needs to be set and the client needs to sign off so that they're giving you feedback every step along the way. That's pre-production. No surprises. You can't afford surprises. I'm telling you, make sure your client is involved and invested in the project. If it's me, and it is, a lot of times with some clients, I have the family and the owner in the content. I have them in the commercial. If it's a pizza place, I put the guy owner in there. If it's a car dealer, I put the car dealer owner in the spot. Guess what? They're invested in the commercial. And even if it didn't work, they had a vanity piece, so they're happy. So little clues like that are inside this book, okay? Budget, time, and money. Very important. Once you've figured out what the content is, and you've got a draft script, and you've got locations, and you got sign off with the client that they agree to these locations and this much time, you can start putting the budget together. How much time you need. Production is pretty simple when you're working with skilled labor. How many days and what's their rate? You can do that math. If it's going to take 2 days to shoot, you hire a photographer, a sound guy, a grip, a lighting director, you name it, all the people you need, makeup artists, and you know what their rate is, you negotiate the rate, you put it in the budget, and you pretty much know. Below the line is pretty spelled out. How much money do you have? You carve it up below the line, and then how much profit you want to make and how much you want to make for writing the piece and directing the piece, if indeed you're going to write and direct at the same time. So in pre-production, make sure the budget is signed off and you hire the right people that are going to help you create and capture the best content you can and tell the best story. And you have to be smart and wise about that. Depending on what style, what mood, what type of content it is, you want to make sure you have a crew and a camera person that understands that and maybe has done that type of work in the past so that they understand what they're shooting. If it's a music video, if it's something out in the desert, something out there on the fringe, you may need a certain type of camera person. Some camera people like to just stay inside in air conditioning, and they've been around a long time. And you know what? Sweating out in the desert ain't part of the deal. And if they accepted the job, you're going to struggle and the work's not going to be there. So in pre-production, vet your talent, make sure it's lined up with your budget, make sure the timelines are there, the schedules are there, and that things will be going pretty well with your storytelling project. The final script, make sure that the client signs off on it. If it's for your own production, make sure you're very satisfied with it. Make sure somebody else takes a look at it, maybe get a little feedback, but make sure your script is tight before you go out and start the production of the product. Talent, who's the talent? In pre-production, you ought to know who's going to voice it and who's going to appear on camera. Extras, real people, paid talent, celebrities, you name it. How much is, if you have the money, it may be better to go out and hire a pro, somebody that's recognizable. May not be an A-lister, but maybe a C-lister will help sell your product. If you have the budget, don't just keep it in your pocket. Use it to create great content that makes it successful, and the client is happy because their content worked, and then you work consistently in the future. Okay, so be smart about the talent and the crew that you put together. Location, make sure you find the right locations. We're going to talk about that here in a minute, about scouting a location. Scouting a location and understanding locations will save you so much time and money. I can't say it enough. So I'm going to spend a whole episode on scouting, okay? Staff, who's going to support your project? Is a client going to give you support staff internally, or do you have to include that in your budget as well? So in pre-production, you have to know where your help is coming from. Be very clear. Don't guess. Don't think you're going to get your nephew to show up on a Saturday, right, and work 12 hours for you without having him locked, okay? Because chances are he's not showing up. So who's your support staff? Who's your paid staff? Who's your volunteer staff? Figure all that out in pre-production. And timing. Once you have your script and you're in pre-production, make sure you have enough time to accomplish and capture that script. Is the sun going to go down? Do I have interior locations? We're going to talk about that in scouting. But when you're in pre-production, you have to plan. How long is it going to take to drive somewhere? Is the sun going to go down? Do you need the sun? Do you need lights? Well, you better figure all that out in pre-production. Every part of the logistical part of putting content together that's going to deliver is very, very well thought out. If you're good and if you want to do it right, is in pre-production. Spend the time. Understand the locations. Understand the map. How much time? What if there's traffic? What if there's not traffic? Etc. We'll get to that in scouting, but in pre-production, you have to put all this on the table so that your budget will reflect what it's going to take to put that concept and that script together and have it look good and have it deliver. You have to consider all of these things. And I go into great detail in my book on pre-production and all the things you need to check off and consider when you're putting your content together. Now, if it's just you and your iPhone, you know what? If you know the location pretty well and it's your iPhone and you don't really have a deadline for your YouTube channel, your content, or your Facebook, that's okay. You may not need to spend a lot of time on that, if any time at all. But if it's going to be purposeful content, digital content that's going to captivate an audience and activate them to do something, you're going to spend time in pre-production and consider what type of camera you're going to use, what kind of location you're going to need, what kind of people are going to be in it, and what kind of script you need to write. It's all very important. It needs to be worked out in pre-production. I'm telling you, you're going to get burned if you don't spend the time in pre-pro. What about insurance? Don't even think about that, right? What if you drop the camera that you rented? What if you dropped the camera that your brother loaned you? What if you borrowed a camera from college and you dropped it or it was stolen? These are things you need to consider in your budget and in pre-production. There's so many things that can go wrong. You have to make sure you've got yourself covered. Okay, I've pretty much handled pre-production in this segment. I want to encourage you to join me on another episode, which I'm going to call How to Scout. And that's where we're going to get into detail on scouting location. Let me tell you, it's very, very important to be very successful to create content that delivers.